This is Religion in the News, sponsored by Wish TV, in cooperation with the Church Federation of Greater Indianapolis.
Good morning, I'm Jeffrey Payne. Thanks for joining us today for Religion in the News. Also joining me today is Julie Ruprecht and Nick Elizondo. Our guests talk about a men's ministry, new media for ministry, and a star-studded speaker series. Stay tuned.
My guest today is Reverend Jason Taylor of Zion Lutheran Church and School in New Palestine, Indiana. Thank you, Pastor Taylor, for joining us on the show this morning.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Well, first and foremost, besides being the pastor of Zion Lutheran Church and School in New Palestine, tell us what other hats you might fill.
Well, I'm a husband and a father. I have a wonderful wife, Jennifer, who is a great partner in ministry and in life. And then we have 4 children, all under the age of 9 and under, so they keep us pretty busy. We have Katie, Paige, Danielle, and Elijah.
So Elijah's the youngest boy and everything. So
Elijah is our only boy, and he's 2 years old. So he has a lot of mothering that goes on in his life, I'm sure. Yes.
Right, absolutely. Well, one thing that's important is that the reason you're on the show today is actually Zion Lutheran Church is hosting a men's mission trip. Is that correct?
Yep,
and they're going down to New Orleans to help the victims of those who have been affected by Hurricane Katrina. Why New Orleans? Out of all the places in the world, we have problems in Haiti, we have Africa, we have problems in Asia. You know, there's different places throughout the world that there's problems and everything, and natural disasters and things of that nature. Why New Orleans?
Well, it was last year, Nick, that we went down south to another town that was struck by the Gulf in the Gulf Coast by the Hurricane Katrina, Biloxi, Mississippi, and we were able to spend a number of days down there helping out individuals who had losses from that Katrina event. And we were struck, I think, that year with just how people were still in their situation of not being whole from Katrina and wanted to make a difference. You know, and this year we thought, well, let's go to New Orleans and do the same thing. I think sometimes when these disasters strike in an area, we respond very well, but then, well, hey, it's been 5.5 years since Katrina. Mm-hmm. They must be okay by now, right? And they're really not. There are so many people who still have the effects in their homes and in their lives from this hurricane.
So, as you said and everything, and for the benefit of our viewers, so they know, it has been 5.5 years since Hurricane Katrina affected New Orleans, Louisiana, and happened in late August 2005. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Now, when you go down to New Orleans, what did you do last year, and then specifically, what are you actually going to be doing this year as well?
Well, last year we were able to help out a couple of different individuals with their residential homes. We're going down with an organization called RAI Ministries. It's Recovery Assistance Incorporated Ministries. It's a Lutheran Church Missouri Synod group that they act as a funnel for volunteers to come down and to get involved with residences, churches, or community projects. So what we did is, one individual, for example, we went into his house and we helped him finish a couple of rooms that had water damage just all over. And as I said, last year was 4.5 years later, and he was still living in that situation. So we were able to drywall, put flooring down, make his home a home again. He was very grateful. This year we're going to be working on a church. There is the 9th Ward area of New Orleans. That was one of the most devastated regions of the city. And this particular area that we're going on to work at, this particular church, Trinity Lutheran Church, They had over 70 churches in this neighboring community before the hurricane. After the hurricane, 15 or less. So what RAI wants to do is renovate this church so that it can be a light in the neighborhood. We're going to go down and try to renovate an aspect or a part of that church, Trinity Lutheran Church, so that that can be a community center, a cooling center, and also a place where other volunteers can come and serve the community.
Oh, wow. So it seems that you guys are going to be very active in New Orleans and everything, which is, I mean, absolutely wonderful. And you and I were talking before the show and everything, and you also were discussing the aspects of seeing a video footage of how New Orleans is still affected 5.5 years later. Well, at the time it was 4.5 years later and everything. So that was something that you said was very heartwarming and also very humbling at the same time. I know that you guys are going to New Orleans February 27th to March 2nd. Is that correct?
That's yes.
Okay.
Yep.
And unfortunately, though, we have to go ahead and wrap some things up, though. However, you know, we'd love to hear some more information from you. And if the viewers have any more information, how can they contact you?
We can certainly go to our website, zionnp.org. That has contact information. Also, my email address is pastorjasontaylor at comcast.net.
Okay. And just for our viewers and everything, that's going to be on the screen for them. That's zionnp.org, as well as Pastor Jason Taylor at comcast.net and everything.
Correct.
And for our viewers, they can see that on the screen for more information to contact you and everything.
Great.
Well, Pastor Taylor, we really appreciate you being on the show and everything. It's wonderful what you're doing for the community and for New Orleans specifically, and we appreciate that, but more importantly, they appreciate that. We thank you for humbling yourselves as well, so thank you. Next to you, Julie.
Coming up next, my guest talks about new media for ministry right after this. Welcome back to Religion in the News. My guest today is Reverend Brian Hudson of New Covenant Church and Ministries. So good to have you here today.
Thank you, Julie.
Thanks for coming and sharing a little bit about your passion with us. You're very passionate about media in your ministry, and you've written a book, and you're a teacher. Tell us a little bit about New Covenant Ministries.
Well, New Covenant Church was founded some 28 years ago. And we're, like most churches, concerned about the community. We love preaching the gospel of Christ. But we also like to incorporate whatever latest tools we think God makes available to the church. So one of those, of course, would be, we call new media, which is a convergence of all forms of media, from books to nowadays internet to TV and all the rest.
So tell us a little bit about this book that you've written, New Media for Ministry. What led you to write this, and who is this intended for?
Well, the book came out of my desire to inform the body of Christ on the great tools God's given us to use to promote the gospel, to enhance the lives of people. And so the book was my attempt at bringing my knowledge and my experience into one volume to introduce people to the concepts of media and new media. So the book is intended for pastors, Christian workers, media departments in churches, even other nonprofits could benefit from the book as well.
You asked the question in your book, how important is new media, along with defining it. How important is media in the church and in this outreach?
Yeah. Well, the Bible itself is a book of media. It's a media tool, if you will, that contains God's word. Well, we're in a generation today that looks at screens. You know, we have our phone screens and TV screens, computer screens. And so we need to present the gospel in the forms that the fish we're supposed to be fishing for, that the people will be able to receive.
And so you have your own blog and you use Twitter and all these things. How have you seen this outreach increase in the last year?
It's increased in a great way. There's almost really, people expect churches and ministers and such to have a Facebook page, a Twitter account. People want to follow you in ways they can make easy for themselves versus trying to call you on the phone or send a letter. They want to be able to know what you're doing instantly, and, you know, so Twitter, Facebook, and then your own websites and tools help that process.
You also have an outreach for youth in urban ministry. It's a summer camp. Tell us a little bit about how you're using media to reach to these youth in the community.
Well, we will this summer have our 11th media camp, we call it, Multimedia and Focus Media Camp. And the purpose of the camp is to turn young people around from being consumers of media to becoming producers of media. That's the simple concept, but it results in us having a tremendous experience. About 30 kids every summer, keep the numbers small on purpose. They do video production, they do interactive media, they do some writing and photography. So we get them all into the mindset of creating positive content as pushing back against the negative forces in society.
That's another thing that you mentioned in your book is when is media good and when is it bad? Talk a little bit more about how you've seen it used for good when you use this.
Well, we should not automatically embrace media. We should not uncritically embrace it. But when it goes well, I mean, it's an opportunity for God to speak through these different tools and channels to people.
What is one story where you've seen youth or a group of youth when they've taken a project and really gone well with it?
Every summer we get some youth come in who don't want to be there. They're slouching in the seats, unconcerned. But once they get their hands on the tools and begin to write their first script, begin to do their shot selections, and begin filming, you know, they light up. Even children who seem unmotivated in academic environments, this part of their life begins to bloom when they have access to this kind of media. So I've seen youth go from unconcerned, disinterested, poor self-image, to coming up to being proud of good work that they've done.
And do many of them take these tools and keep using them later in life? Have you seen anyone stay in the new media field?
Well, yes, I would say up to, I want to say at least 20 of our youth over the years have they've finished college. My own son, you know, who is now a producer of video professionally. So we've had many youth to choose this career. But again, the whole purpose beyond just having a career in media is to recognize the value and power of media. Whatever field of endeavor they choose, these tools will benefit them.
And a little bit more about this book. When you're working with other ministries, how have you seen that elevate the outreach as well?
Well, many times churches, especially medium-sized or small churches, really benefit from having someone like myself to consult and help them and, you know, to show them what's possible and to save money doing so. Ministries need these tools, and sometimes they're out of reach financially. Sometimes they can't work with people who work with them, you know, economically. So we've helped many churches to incorporate these tools, whether it's, again, traditional video production or web development. We've helped them to understand the power of new media for ministry.
So if people are interested in this book, how can they get that today?
Well, they can go Amazon.com. They can go to our church website at newcovenant.org, or just Google. I checked before I came on, we're the top result in Google. So just Google New Media for Ministry, and we're the top result.
Wonderful. And as far as the summer camp as well, they can go to the website?
They can.
Wonderful.
Yep, church website or the media website.
And that's coming up this summer?
June and July.
June
6
and
weeks.
July. Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for being here today. It was a pleasure to learn more from you, and we hope your camp goes well as well as your book sale. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Julie. Appreciate it.
Back to you.
My guest talks about a star-studded speaker series when Religion in the News returns.